I can't wheelie to save my life.
Dylan, for how long can you wheelie? What's a good distance you've been able to cover with your front wheel in the air?
It's definitely in the kilometers.
What?
Yeah, with my wheelie bike, I can go forever. On my road bike, maybe like 700 meters.
Welcome to the Canadian Cycling Magazine podcast. I'm Matthew Pioro. You just heard from Carson Mattern and Dylan Bibic. At the beginning of September, the two young riders won rainbow jerseys at the Junior Track World Championships in Cairo. Mattern won gold in the scratch race and Bibic won the points race. They took home some other hardware too. Mattern and Bibic got bronze in the Madison and Bibic was second place in the Omnium. If you've been keeping an eye on junior and under-17 racing, you'll know that Bibic has an unofficial under-17 world record in the 2-kilometer individual pursuit. At the 2019 Canadian Track Championships, he won 7 gold, 2 silver, and 1 bronze. Oh, and he set Canadian records in the 200-meter time trial and the team sprint as well. Mattern is also no stranger to the podium. He's been racing steadily from an early age and is a diligent and dedicated athlete. Bibic is 18 years old and from Mississauga, Ontario, just west of Toronto. Mattern is 17 from Ancaster, Ontario, close to Hamilton. They've both benefited from the legacies of major cycling events held in that province. Mattern has raced for NCCH, National Cycling Centre Hamilton. That organization grew out of the World Road Cycling Championships that were held in Hamilton in 2003. Both riders have honed their track riding skills on the velodrome in Milton, Ontario, which was built for the 2015 Pan Am Games. Those events and their influence have had real positive effects on the cycling careers of these two riders. Mattern, Bibic, and I discuss the challenges and successes of racing in Cairo and its overall importance. Remember, junior racing has been hit harder with cancellations than elite level racing throughout the pandemic. We also discuss the future goals of the two very ambitious and talented riders. Carson Mattern and Dylan Bibic. At the beginning of September, you were in Cairo for the Junior Track World Championships. What were your first impressions of that city and the event?
I didn't know what to expect. I've been living in Europe the few months before, and with what I saw, it was pretty good, better than I thought. I liked the people, they're nice.
And Carson, what were your first impressions of Cairo?
First things first, it's really hot there. You get off the airplane and it's like, whoa, this isn't Canada. But yeah, I mean, like Dylan, I wasn't really quite sure what to expect. Cairo's a city I've only ever seen in the movies. So it was really cool to actually just be there and be experiencing it and seeing how life works on the other side of the planet. But yeah, no, the people there were really friendly. Every interaction I had was great with locals and staff. And it was just really amazing, but really hot.
But I think you said in a Twitter clip that the organization posted you were good with the heat. You didn't mind racing in the heat.
No, I didn't mind it at all. Actually, it was quite nice. Felt like a little beach vacation. And it's been really nice. We had a massive heat wave here in Ontario the last couple of weeks leading up to the event. So we were having 30, 35 degree days anyway. So going there, it just felt kind of the same old, same old. So yeah, I feel the heat actually worked to my advantage compared to other countries who maybe have a little bit more mild climates, who would have been definitely suffering.
That's hilarious. You wouldn't have expected the Canucks to come properly acclimatized to the heat to Cairo, but there you go.
Yeah, exactly. Pretty ironic.
The Cairo velodrome is fairly new. Dylan, how does it compare with your home track in Milton, Ontario?
Yeah, the dimensions are similar. It's just that there's a roof, but there's no walls. So like wind can get in and you feel it when you ride. But besides that, it's a well-built track and I quite enjoyed riding it.
So you felt you could feel the winds. Did that affect any of the racing?
For me, no, because I was just doing racing. But for people who are doing timed events like Carson, I think it would affect you more since you're against the clock.
Yeah, definitely, because you've got the open air, so there's headwinds, there's tailwinds, and you kind of have them alternating depending what side of the track you're on. And especially, too, the crosswinds made running a front disc a little dangerous. So that's all things that you just factor in, and you have to adjust your pacing and your gearing accordingly in the timed events. You know, the same way you would in a time trial. If there's massive crosswinds, you wouldn't necessarily run a disc, and then you're thinking about where you're going to put the effort in relation to the wind. So certainly a little different than Milton, where it's all walled in, perfect controlled environment, and you can just ride flat out. So definitely an added technical element that I've never had to deal with, never having ridden in open air before.
What were some of the other challenges of racing in Egypt?
Hydration, because obviously on the track, you can't take water with you. It's not like a road race. So really the weeks leading up, nailing hydration day after day, you couldn't get behind. And then while you're there, it's just constantly drinking water, constantly getting electrolytes in, because even after just being in the track for 30 minutes, not even riding, just getting there and getting your bike set up, you were sweating buckets. So that was probably one of the biggest challenges, was staying on top of that.
Carson, on the second day of competition, you competed in the scratch race. What were your expectations before that event?
Expectations? Wasn't really sure what to expect, to be honest. First international event ever for the track. First, bunch track race since March 2020 at Provincials. So I knew going into it that I was on really good form. The preparation camp, things were going really well. So I knew it'd be fast, and also because it's Junior Worlds, you don't know what your competition's like. You don't know who's the sprinter, who's the breakaway artist, what nations you have to look out for, because it's everyone's kind of first big race. So really just went in with a strategy that I knew was going to play to my strengths. And first it was just about getting through qualifying. You have to make it to the final first. And then going into the final, okay, I can't worry about what others are going to do because I don't know what they're going to do. All I can think about is what's going to give me the best shot at getting a result. And that's kind of how I thought about it. And that's how I ended up getting my world title.
The scratch race is 10 kilometers over 40 laps, and the first person over the line wins, but there's a chance for riders to lap the field. At what point in the race did you lap the field?
So I think I launched my attack with maybe 15 to go. It was definitely in the late stages of the race. The first 20, 25 laps were pretty fast. There were lots of people trying to attack and get away. There were small breakaways, and the whole peloton was just going up and down the track, go down to chase, go up once they got caught, and someone else would go. And then around that 15 laps to go, you're kind of getting into those last 10 laps and people are starting to think about the sprint. And there was a moment where the whole peloton just kind of pulls up and you see all the big guys on the front start looking at each other. And I just saw that as my opportunity to get away because mixing in for the sprint wasn't going to be my best chance.
And which was harder, that effort to lap the field or staying focused afterward to hold on to the win?
Definitely the effort to lap the field. I mean, obviously, that was a really full out 2.5 minutes looking at the power file afterwards. The heart rate was just absolutely insane. I put it into, I think average heart rate for that attack was 215 beats per minute. So huge effort. And the first couple laps are hard mentally as well because you've got people chasing you. You kind of look over your shoulder and you see the packs lined out. I think I actually had a Dane a couple meters off my wheel. He never quite got across, but that's definitely those first couple laps until you kind of break the pack. That's really challenging to keep going and pushing through that pain because you're thinking, I'm just going to get caught. But then once you kind of get clear, it turns into a little bit more of a steady, controlled effort. And then you get around. And then once you're back to the peloton, once onto the back of the pack, as long as no one else comes around, you're safe. So it's just about staying kind of out of trouble and recovering to, not fade off the back. And then it was somewhat lucky. It sounds kind of bad. They had to neutralize the race for a few laps because of a crash. So I got to roll around and actually completely recover just sitting on the back. And when the gun went with 5 to go and all of a sudden it goes full out, I just had to sit in and secure my spot.
And how did you feel after you won?
Just over the moon. It's been such a wild ride, especially the last kind of year and a half with no racing. Then yes, there's racing, but not really. And then Junior Worlds was going to happen and then it wasn't going to happen. And then it got delayed and now we're finally here. So just to see kind of the last year and a half, well, really the last 4 years kind of all culminate into this one achievement. It was pretty special, pretty amazing. And then whatever amount of fatigue and soreness I was feeling from that race instantly went away because you're just so excited. I still can't quite get over it. It was a pretty amazing feeling.
Dylan, on the third day of racing at Worlds, you won the points race. It's 100 laps with sprints every 10 laps. Did you have a plan for that event?
No, I didn't really have a plan. I just went to race. I don't know, I know how to race. So that's what I did.
During the race, was Yuri Shcherban of Ukraine your biggest worry? He won 4 of the sprints early on and the final one for 10 points.
No, actually, the Ukrainian guy, I don't know. I don't remember him. I think if you're getting points early on, it's obvious that's your strategy. And that's not how you win a points race. So I never really cared for him.
How do you win a points race?
Well, you have to get some points, but it's definitely by lapping the field.
For sure. And you lapped the field 2 times, but Shcherban actually only lapped it once. But there were 5 other riders who had lapped the field as well as you.
Yeah. I think there's a Russian and a German and some others.
So did you have a sense of how many points you had when you crossed the line?
Yeah, no, you look up at the scoreboard and you can see with the score currently in the race.
Let's now switch to the omnium. Dylan, you had to do a scratch race, a tempo race, elimination race, and a points race. Which was the most challenging event of the omnium?
The most challenging would always be the points race, but for me, I really messed up my scratch race, so it made every other race really hard.
Yeah, you were 13th in the scratch. What happened? Why do you say you messed it up?
I don't know. I really don't know what I was thinking. Just terrible positioning for the sprint, and things like that can happen, but I should have just spent more energy to be at the front.
How did you feel then in the end with your silver medal in the omnium?
Well, I was happy with it, but I really wanted to win the omnium because it is, in my opinion, the highest, most prestigious track event because it's an Olympic track event. So I really wanted to do well, but second's okay.
On the final day of the World Championships, you two competed in the Madison. This is a great event with hand slings. As a spectator, it can be head-spinning to watch, especially from the infield. Previous to this event, Carson, what was your experience with the Madison?
Most of my Madison experience comes from Milton and also the Lexus Velodrome in Detroit. They actually start as part of all the, junior training programs and youth programs that I've kind of grown up doing. They start teaching us Madison pretty early on because, like you said, it's just a great sport to learn. It teaches you a lot of skills and a lot of strategy that then get applied to all the other kind of racing. And then that evolved into a bit of a love for racing Madison, the weekend race nights. I've raced Madison at the Eastern Championships, and I think we got a silver medal in that race. Going down to Detroit, it's just totally a spectator's night there. Detroit's an amazing track. The whole infield is like a restaurant or a bar. So everyone comes, gets to sit and watch, and there's live music. So really, really love it. It's a fun, very intense, very chaotic race. So then going to do that at Junior Worlds was just, all right, let's take this to the whole next level of chaos and excitement. I was pretty excited.
And Dylan, how do you feel about the Madison?
Yeah, actually, it was not as hyped up as seemed. Everyone would tell me who has done it in years before, it's Junior Madison, it's very sketchy, but it's nothing compared to what I've been racing on the road.
Interesting. Now, had you two done the Madison together before?
Not properly, no.
I think, Dylan, you and I have done it a few times in training, just Madison drills behind the motobike, but never in a race. And not for a long time either. I think the last time we did Madison was, October of 2019? Or no, sorry, 2020, a long time ago.
Were you guys feeling rusty or apprehensive, Dylan? How did you feel going into it then?
I knew I was one of the strongest guys in the race, but it has to be a strong team. And we had good mechanics, but I don't know, just wasn't there.
I think Dylan and I, we were really focusing on the technical element just because we haven't had time to nail that just time after time in training. So there was a lot of focus on just getting our exchanges right. And then the physical effort is just the best you can. Obviously the last day of a week of competition, everyone's kind of fatigued. And then the Madison takes so much out of you, cause you have to focus so much. So not only are your legs tired, but your brain's getting tired. But I think we had we started to kind of get into the flow of it and communicate really, really well. And I think that's how we were able to move up into this bronze medal position and then hold on to that. So I don't think there's much to be ashamed of. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff to improve upon, but given the circumstances, it's hard to be disappointed with that result. And it's only made, I know personally, it's only made myself hungrier for next year to go back to the Madison and, really kill it, really be in that gold medal position. Just, you got to take the first step.
Dylan, what's it like racing with Carson?
As a teammate, he's good. It's always annoying to race against him because he's a good competitor, but when we're on the same team, it's enjoyable.
And Carson, same question. What's it like racing with Dylan?
Racing with Dylan is, I echo the same sentiment. He's a really challenging competitor, but working with him is much nicer than against him because I feel that we both have some strengths that kind of complement each other. And Dylan also has a lot of Madison experience, more than myself. He's gone to Geneva for the Madison races there. So working with him in the Madison specifically was kind of like working with a very experienced rider. So there was a lot that I learned from him, just even with the, half-second sentences that we were forming kind of midway through the exchange. I felt like that was a massive learning experience for me.
The final tally after Worlds is the two of you have a gold, which means a world champion's rainbow jersey each. And you guys both have bronze from the Madison. And Dylan, you walk away with the silver as well. With that event now roughly 3 weeks in the past, what do those results mean to you?
I think it really sets me up well for basically just giving me more options. Like now, I genuinely think I can go to the Olympics for these events. Or I could choose the road route, and I don't know what I'm going to choose yet, so this just gave me another option.
And Carson, what does this last competition at Junior Worlds mean to you?
Well, it means a lot. Obviously, like the rainbow jersey is such a prized thing to have, and now that I get to have this kind of on my wall for the rest of my life, that's an incredible achievement. But yeah, certainly, kind of like what Dylan was saying, it opens some doors, certainly. The last couple of years has been challenging just to kind of break into the sport and make a bit of a name for myself because, obviously you're kind of starting out and you're working your way up. And then right as I got to a point where it's okay, I think I can kind of start making an impression and getting some big results. Then we had COVID for so long and with no racing. So now to finally kind of be, okay, I'm here, I've done the work, I'm committed to the sport, and this is what I've got to show for my work is definitely it's a very good feeling, obviously. So yeah, just looking at the opportunities that this now creates and trying to figure out the goals and where I want to take it. The Olympics are definitely on the radar screen, same as Dylan. I think if we've got 2.5 years roughly, if we can tick all the boxes, then I think I can definitely get there. But this is just another step along the way.
Before the Junior World Championships, Canada had successes at the Tokyo Olympics with Kelsey Mitchell's gold in the sprint and Lauriane Genet's bronze in Keirin. After Junior Worlds, Canadians took 4 medals at the Nation Cup in Cali, Colombia. What does that say about the state of track cycling in Canada?
I guess it kind of shows because of the Milton track being built. Riders have come up and now are doing really well on the world stage.
Yeah, definitely having Milton here it's an amazing tool, and especially for myself and Dylan and anyone else who lives in kind of our general vicinity, having that so close within, an hour's drive is fantastic. It's a wonderful training tool. But I think just as the overall state of track cycling in Canada, we've really made a name for ourselves. Canada's always been a bit of a presence on the track, especially in the team pursuit, but now I think we're showing our diversity in skills and talent. We've got medals in the sprint, medals in the Keirin. We've got riders doing well in all sorts of events. At the Nations Cup, for instance, in Cali, Junior Worlds, obviously, there's a pretty diverse lineup of medals. So I just think now that at least Canada should be considered one of the top track nations. I think we definitely are. And that's actually a really, really significant thing for athletes in Canada to kind of internalize, because it definitely is intimidating when you go over to another country and you're in their backyard, you're competing in someone else's home track and that are already considered to be a big nation, GB, Belgium, the Netherlands. But now that, Canada has proven how good we are on the track, that's definitely very motivating and very exciting.
You two are in your late teens. Dylan, you're 18, and Carson, you're 17. The Milton velodrome is a little more than 6 years old. It was there because of the Pan Am Games. Has this track essentially always been there for you guys? You're a generation that has grown up with that track essentially since the beginning of your careers. Is that a fair assessment?
Yeah, I'd say so.
Yeah, I've been riding the track since it came out. So I think it's really like brought me up well.
Yeah. Like for me too, just since I started track cycling, Milton's always been there. So 100% I've definitely grown up with it.
That's amazing. It's like we're seeing the result of that, having that facility here. But Carson, you also would race at Forest City, I believe, in London, Ontario?
Yeah, so Forest City is the track that I learned how to ride track on. That was a long time ago, but I went there when I was 11 or 12, and I had a rental bike and, learned the basics of this is what a fixed gear looks like. This is the things you can't do on a fixed gear, like coast or stop pedaling because it will go, very wrong for you. And then started riding the boards, and those first couple laps were terrifying. I don't know if you've ever been to Forest City, but it is steep, it is aggressive, it is a pretty challenging technical track to ride, especially at speed. But then you get used to it, and like a day later I was racing there, like properly racing. I love Forest City. Like it's so intense, the laps are so short, it's fast. So just the intensity and the excitement of racing was something that I got from a young age, and it hooked me on track cycling. So then going to Milton was just the next natural evolution in that.
Dylan, what can you tell us about your early days in bike racing? Did you start on the road or did you start on the track, or what hooked you into racing bikes?
I think my first races were in mountain biking, but in the same year I did road cycling and I liked it a lot more. And this was probably like back in 2012, 2013. And I guess I did it for 2 years, and then the track in Milton opened around 2014, 15. And I started riding it then, and it's probably my strongest cycling ability is on the track.
Carson, what's something listeners should know about Dylan, whether that's something relating to cycling or maybe a non-cycling fact?
Dylan is an extraordinary, old video game player. The dude can speed run Mario faster than anyone I've ever met. So that is something non-cycling related. And then in terms of cycling, Dylan's just a relentless competitor. He's the old Merckx quote, as long as I'm still breathing, I attack. I hope that's Merckx. I'm pretty sure. And that's exactly Dylan. Just will never give up, fighting to the last match. And he's a hard competitor because of that. So two very useful bits of information there.
Dylan, same question. What's something listeners should know about Carson, whether it's cycling or non-cycling related?
With cycling, Carson's he's one of the most dedicated athletes I know. He's does every little thing, and it's really cool. And he's nice to talk to.
Oh, thank you, Dylan.
Who's better at wheelies?
Oh, Dylan. I can't wheelie to save my life.
Dylan, for how long can you wheelie? What's a good distance you've been able to cover with your front wheel in the air?
It's definitely in the kilometers.
What?
Yeah, with my wheelie bike I can go forever. On my road bike, maybe 700 meters.
Wow. Carson, I've heard that you work with a local Rotary Club. Can you tell me more about that?
Yeah, so I've been volunteering with the Ancaster Rotary Club for coming on 3 years now. So I've been helping them primarily with their social media. So any kind of ad campaign or event promotion on their Facebook or Instagram, I'm usually behind that. So right now they're actually doing a raffle for a convertible Mustang. So I've been working really hard to get lots of ticket sales online. But they've been a massive supporter of my cycling endeavors the last couple of years. They're always interested in what I'm up to, and they've actually contributed significant, financial funding, especially to the trip to Cairo. So they've been absolutely top tier, one of my closest supports. And I'm really thankful for everything they do and the wealth of experience that I've gotten kind of in a communications sense of working with them. It's definitely a whole other world. So just grateful for the support and the experience, life skills that I'm learning from working with them.
Dylan, we are speaking the day after you did the time trial at the Road World Championships. You finished 19th. How was it competing in that event?
Yeah, the level of competition on the road is just unbelievable. I haven't really had the greatest preparation for time trial, but I gave the hardest effort I've ever given in my life, and I'm pleased with the results. I did a good amount of watts.
When this podcast comes out, the road race will have passed. So listeners will all know the results of that. But what's next for you after the World Championships? What are your plans maybe for the rest of the season or going into the next one?
I don't know. We'll see. I don't really know yet. I know I want to take a good off season, but we'll see. You never know what might happen.
With your success so far in cycling, where do you hope that it will take you? Where do you hope cycling will take you from here?
I guess the dream would be a world tour cyclist. And then the second option would be Olympic track cyclist, but I'd rather be a road cyclist.
And Carson, what about you? What's next for you in the short term?
So right now, I'm already thinking about next season, next year. Obviously, the biggest goals are kind of still that year out. I want to think about Worlds again next year. More immediately, there's track nationals happening kind of in November. So gonna do a little bit of a run into that and hopefully get some good results. But already thinking about next year's World Championships, next year's track season, next year's road season, and where I want to go with that.
And where do you hope cycling takes you farther down the road?
I just want to take it as far as I can. So I'm obviously the Olympics is a huge, huge goal that's been a dream since I was a little kid to represent Canada at the Olympics. So definitely kind of in the next couple years, that's going to be something I'm going to pursue. But the ultimate dream is obviously to go do, the world tour stuff, get into some of the biggest races in the world, a grand tour, spring classics, just the races you grow up watching on TV and just imagine yourself doing. I think that would be really, really cool just to have that life experience and go do that. So we'll have to see where it takes me. Obviously, I've got goals academically as well. So it's just a bit of a balance and figuring out. I figured you can always go back to school. You can't quite go back to sports. So I'm going to take cycling as far as I can. And then if it happens, it happens. I'm going to try everything. I'm going to do everything I can to make sure it does happen. But then, there'll be a point where you retire and then I'll go get my education. So that's kind of the plan.
Well, Carson, Dylan, thank you very much for making this time to chat. I really appreciate it. And wherever cycling takes you guys, good luck. And yeah, I hope we're chatting again about future cycling endeavors.
Yeah. Thank you so much for your time. This was a lot of fun. First podcast.
Yeah, thank you.
And that's the episode. It's written and edited by me, Matthew Piero. I had help from web editor Lily Hanson-Gillis. Sadly, this is the last time she'll be helping me out with a podcast. She's moving on to new endeavors. Good luck, Lily, and thank you. The Canadian Cycling Magazine podcast is produced by Adam Killick. He composed the music too. Thanks to Ontario Creates for its support. And thank you for listening. Please rate and review the show, ride safely, and I'll talk to you later.